Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is me. Hi, Swastika. And today we are discussing and analyzing July 1st, 2020 का हिंदू हम लोग आज analyze करेंगे as a part of our daily current affairs. So moving on, these are my qualifications. I've done my masters in political science from Jawaharlal Nehru University. I've done my bachelor's in the same from Delhi University. And please सब्सक्राइब वो जो लाल वाला बटन है उसको जोर से दबाओ और कमेंट करो नीचे आपको क्या इसमें पसंद आया मूविंग ऑन द टेबल ऑफ कंटेंट्स विल डिस्कसिंग इकोनॉमिक्स सम शॉर्ट न्यूज इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस के दो चीजें हम डिस्कस करेंगे इंडिया चाइना बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट एंड सार गवर्नमेंट स्कीम पीएमजीकेवाई एंड कल्चर के ऊपर एक दो क्वेश्चंस मूविंग ऑन. So in the first page of the newspaper today, we see how the output of eight core sectors है हमारे coal, crude oil, natural gas, refinery products, fertilizer, steel, cement and electricity जो है वो 23% से मई 2020 में थर्ड टाइम श्रिंक हुए हैं. Only the fertilizer industry saw a growth of 7.5%. बाकी सारे sectors जो है वो shrink हुए हैं. Steel sector obviously topped the was the worst performing sector and it recorded a 48.5% fall, followed by the cement industry. Short news. So, according to United Nations Population Fund UNFPA, जिसने एक रिपोर्ट रिलीज करी है जिसका नाम है स्टेट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड पॉपुलेशन रिपोर्ट 2020. 46 million girls went missing in India due to pre and postnatal sex selection. This means globally, 1 in 3 girls that go missing due to sex selection are from India. That means that out of 142 million girls globally, 46 million Indian girls go missing. The number of missing women has doubled over the past 50 years, over 61 million in 1970. So in this case, it's important to remember the name of the organization, which is United Nations Population Fund, जिसने ये report release करी है इसका नाम है State of the World Population Report 2020. And next, 59 widely used apps, including TikTok, were banned by Ministry of Electronics and IT. Moving on. So, in the editorial page today by R. Sudarshan, who is the Dean of the School of Government and Public Policy, OP Jindal Global University, has written an article that we are going to discuss on India and China border dispute. So, he began by talking about how Modi visited Shanghai in 2015, where he met Xi Jinping, who took him to Xi'an province when he was born, and a book written by Buddhist monk Zhuang Zhang was shown to him. So this meeting was symbolic in terms of soulful intimacy, closeness, and solidarity. It reaffirmed the spirit of friendship. However, the current state of affairs is very sad, as we already know what's happening in Galwan Valley in Ladakh. So Galwan Valley is located here. It's in Ladakh. It's that chota sa black point, okay? And 20 soldiers here were left dead. So the entire border dispute that we've had with China goes back decades. So China refuses to believe the McMahon line. This is the McMahon line. It's right over Arunachal Pradesh, the blue thing, the blue line. That's McMahon line. So China refuses to believe this line because it was demarcated by British colonial powers. The controversy is that Aksai Chin is claimed by India but ruled by China. Aksai Chin is this area. This is Chinese administrator and India claims it but China rules it. So this is the entire thing that's happening. Arunachal Pradesh, which is this right here, is ruled by India but claimed by China. So we've always had a border dispute there. So the history is that in 1993, an agreement on the maintenance of peace and tranquility along the line of actual control in India-China border was signed. A similar agreement was signed in 1996. So what the 1996 agreement was called as the Agreement on Confidence Building Measures in the Military Field along the line of actual control in the India-China border areas. It was signed in 1996 and it prohibited the use of firearms by both sides. The exact clause I'll read out because I think it's important. Neither side shall open fire, cause biodegradation, use hazardous chemicals, conduct blast operations, or hunt with guns or explosives within 2 kilometers from the line of actual control. This prohibition shall not apply to routine firing activity. So they basically prohibited firearms, but the irony is that when this entire Galwan clash happened, the armies on both the sides were fighting with nails and other things, and it was much worse than what it could have been with firearms. So let's take a short look back to history. In 1960, a proposal was made by Zhao Enlai. So he was the foreign minister of China during that time, who said, "Ki, let's have a permanent settlement to the border dispute." Now, this was rejected by Jawaharlal Nehru. So today, China believes itself to be a superpower, and China has refused to. And so this country is basically just now flexing its muscle by refusing to recognize the authority of the Permanent Court of Arbitration (PCA), which was established by United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and CLOS. PCA had ruled that China breached its obligations under the Convention of International Regulations of Preventing Collisions at the Sea and also the Article 19 of UNCLOS. So, historically, this was the trouble that even international organizations had with China, and now China also is intolerant of India building infrastructure along the border, very intolerant. Moving on, so what can India do? The answer to this is very simple. We cannot have any kind of we can't have a moral outrage against China. That is not good diplomacy. We only need to look forward to having a peaceful resolution. अब सब लोग बोल रहे हैं, नरेंद्र मोदी बोल रहे हैं कि हम we let's boycott all goods made in China. But what we don't see is that boycotting goods made in China hardly even you know uh, even scratches puts a scratch on them. In fact, it hurts India more. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because India imports a lot more from China. So India is often called the pharmacy of the world. It's called the pharmacy of the world because we produce the maximum number of medicines, but the raw material for those medicines comes directly from China. That raw material is API. This API is active pharmaceutical ingredient that out of which most of the medicines that India makes is done. So boycotting goods made in China would actually hurt us more because the active pharmaceutical ingredients we procure from them only. Also, and secondly, India should try to emulate China in manufacturing practices. So this is basically being said in context of, let's take the example of Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs, who was the founder of the company Apple, initially started the manufacturing in China. So just 3 days before the launch of the iPad, or sorry, the iPhone, he wanted the screen to be changed, and he asked the manufacturers in China to change it. And within 3 days, they produced an entirely new match. So he's trying to say, Darshan is trying to say in this article, is that we should try to emulate China in its manufacturing practices. Also, at home, we are seeing a lot of problems because discrimination against northeastern people has increased because everyone is saying boycott China. So this racial discrimination has increased, and this is problematic. So the need of the hour is to have a pragmatic and shrewd diplomacy with China. We don't need to have warm, gushing relationships with them as we tried in after the blunder of 1962. I think we understand that the only way to deal with China is to have pragmatic and shrewd diplomacy. So we need to work on that. Moving on, there is this next article in the newspaper which asks whether we should revive SARC to deal with China. Now, this is written by Prabhash Ranjan, who is a senior assistant professor of law in the South Asian University, New Delhi. And should we revise SARC deal with China? So before I explain the difference between SARC and BIMSTEC and all that, I'll just quickly tell you what the thing is. So this is India, this is Pakistan, this is China, this is Nepal, this is Bangladesh, this is Sri Lanka. All our neighbors. This. China has very good relations with and is trying to even have better relationships with. It's helping out Pakistan a lot. Like China is now getting even closer to Pakistan. China is also trying to create good relationships with Nepal on ideational and material reasons. China is also offering 97% tax exemption to Bangladeshi products, and in Sri Lanka, China is making greater investments. According to Brookings study, most South Indian nations are now largely dependent on China for imports. So we are increasing dependence on China for imports this country is creating. So, what is the difference between SARC and BIMSTEC? SARC is the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. It's an intergovernment organization. Its member states are Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. It was founded in Dhaka and its secretariat is in Kathmandu, Nepal. Okay, so we try to achieve greater economic and regional integration with this. BIMSTEC is the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. It's an international organization of 7 nations of South Asia and Southeast Asia. These include Bangladesh, Bhutan, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and it's often called mini SARC. And the permanent secretariat is in Dhaka, Bangladesh. Moving on, can BIMSTEC replace SARC? So he is saying that BIMSTEC can't replace her. The SARC has also been in a lot of controversy and a lot of issues because Pakistan is in that, association of nations, and we have always had issues with Pakistan, and especially a lot of issues with Pakistan, which is why it has sort of lost its relevance. But the point that he's trying to make is that BIMSTEC cannot replace SARC because SARC has a common identity and history which BIMSTEC lacks. BIMSTEC is a Bay of Bengal regions association of nations where so it is inappropriate for it to engage in South Asian nations. So he is saying that due to the lack of common identity and history, we cannot have BIMSTEC to replace SARC. So the question is that if that is not going to happen, then how do we revive SARC? The process of reviving SARC can only be done by increasing, economic integration in South Asia. Now, this has proven very difficult because in South Asia we lack political will and there is a big trust deficit, which has prevented any meaningful movement. Now, intra-SARC trade would be investment flows would be beneficial for everyone, but due to some problems like lack of political will and trust deficit, we have been unable to, make complete use of this. South Asia is one of the least integrated nations, consequently. According to World Bank, trade in South Asia stands at 23 billion of an estimated 67 billion. तो वो estimate हमारा 67 billion था, but अभी हम लोग सिर्फ 23 billion, which is almost, I don't know if my maths is right, but almost one third. So the what they're trying to say for that is that India should take the lead and smash tariff and non-tariff barriers. But even in this case, we face a lot of domestic challenges. पहला domestic challenge तो यही है कि हमारा political dividend reap नहीं होगा अगर हम लोग pro पाकिस्तान और pro बांग्लादेशी migrant कोई भी rhetoric उठाएं. ठीक है, so for political reasons, for the sake of majoritarian politics, we have the political parties in power try to pick up an anti-Pakistan rhetoric, and this also negatively influences our foreign policy. It leads to anti India sentiment in the neighborhood and it dents India's soft power image of a liberal democracy. Economic vision of PM Modi is so this is the second reason, the second domestic challenge that we face is very flaky. On one hand, Narendra Modi is saying let's have protectionist measures such as Make in India, Made in India. On the other hand, we are talking about economic integration, which cannot happen if we, take forward a protectionist foreign policy. So there are multitude plethora of challenges that we face in reviving SAR, but this was his view on it. Moving on. So in the first page of the newspaper today, the scheme was mentioned PMGKY, प्रधान मंत्री गरीब कल्याण योजना. अब इसको याद करने के लिए कुछ भी नहीं करना. You just have to remember गरीब कल्याण योजना. ठीक है, it's गरीब. So in order to fight with poverty, we need to give free food grain scheme. So this was launched by Narendra Modi in 2016. It's in light these days because it has been extended to the end of November with an additional rupees 9,000 crore. So what they're saying is that they are going to keep distributing free food grain till the end of November by giving this scheme another 9,000 crore. It is a part of the Taxation Laws Second Amendment Act 2016. The scheme provides an opportunity to declare unaccounted wealth and black money in a confidential manner and avoid persecution after paying a fine of 50% on undisclosed. So this was back then. In the COVID-19 pandemic, the finance minister has announced 1.70 lakh crore, which is 24 billion relief under the scheme for poor. This includes 500 rupees each to 19.86 crore women, Jan Dhan account holders, LPG cylinders, 1000 for senior citizens, and till 11th April, 28,256 crores was disbursed through PMGKY to nearly 32 crore beneficiaries. And now again 9,000 crore is being disbursed to make sure that till the end of November we are in a position to provide free food grain to people who need it. Moving on, in culture, this was in news today. Ashadi Ekadashi. So these are the alternate names for it, and it's basically 11th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the Hindu month of Ashadha, June July. So Pandharpur is to see muted celebrations due to COVID. So Pandharpur is in Maharashtra. This place is Pandharpur, and Warkaris devotees undertake the Wari pilgrimage on foot from Dehu, Alangi, Pune. From Pune, devotees walk all the way to Pandharpur and in the Vithal Rukmini temple, and this is not going it's going to see a very muted celebration due to coronavirus. So this we have to remember, it's in Maharashtra. This is where it is located. From Pune to Pandharpur people walk, and that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to my channel. That will be great. Please hit the red button. Please subscribe.